everybody? Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to Mobile Monday on a Tuesday. And thanks for everyone for putting up with traffic. How many people had a hard time getting here? Yeah, everyone. So cool. My name is Tapia, and I've been running the Mobile Monday stuff here in the Valley for about 10 years, and overall for about 18 years in the industry. I'm an industry person, so running product and other marketing and management roles in the mobile ecosystem. So tonight we have a topic of user acquisition for the holidays, which is kind of a holiday theme. We have a great lineup of panelists and also a moderator for the industry to dive deep. How many people here first time tonight? Wow. How many people found us on meetup.com? Eventbrite. How many people Eventbrite? How many people a friend invited them? Okay, cool. How many people in user acquisition have the magic role? You guys are buyers. Cool. Awesome. How many people are in ad tech? Right. And how many people here are just app developers and very curious? How many people here are founders of a startup? Cool. All right, so tonight, briefly, we have an awesome lineup, and we're a little bit late on our schedule for tonight, but I think we'll catch up here pretty quickly. So we'll do a keynote really quickly here with Leo here from YouAppi, and then we'll jump into a panel discussion. I think hold your questions till the end, and then we'll have a good, fast questions and answer session at the very end. And then hang out, we have a lot of goodies, coffee and tea there at the end, a lot more mingling, and probably a lot more wine and beer left over. You guys are just all hanging out. But without further ado, let's get Leo. Come on down. Give him a lot of applause.
So, hello everyone, thank you for coming out this evening. My name is Giel, the Chief Revenue Officer at YouAppi. YouAppi, for those of you that may have heard of us before, we started as a user acquisition platform. For those of you that may not know what user acquisition is, that essentially is a way for a large brand or a retailer to get their app installed on a consumer's device and start building that loyalty and relationship with the customer. For those of you that know us, we've evolved over the years from just a user acquisition platform to something much more elaborate, and that's a 360-degree growth marketing platform. So what is a 360-degree growth marketing platform? Essentially, it allows us to connect the brand to a consumer at any stage in the consumer's advertising life cycle, whether that be the app download or branded video when you might want to release a new product, or re-engage a dormant user. And then we layered in a whole suite of fraud tools to prevent any of the fraudsters that come in from the online world and steal users or maybe trick the advertiser. But that's not why we're here tonight. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what you're doing as an advertiser or a marketeer to prepare for the holiday season. We have an awesome group here of experts to talk about the retail world and what they're doing in the holiday shopping season. So before we kick that off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we found out. So we polled a bunch of users and we asked them what they were doing. Are you still investing for the holiday seasons? And if so, what are you doing? The good news is everyone is, obviously. Almost 100% of them are still investing for the holiday season. Most of them are investing in budget. I'm going to stop the mic. I think it's a little odd. So most of them are investing just budget, right? So that makes sense. I want to get more impressions. I want to reach more consumers, and that makes sense. They're also investing a lot on design. So for a guy who's tied into thousands of app publishers all over the world, that makes me happy. Because for years, so many advertisers were giving me one set of creative saying, make this work across 5,000 app publishers and deliver me amazing results. Obviously, that doesn't work when you're trying to target different audiences, different verticals, so you need to be smart about how you design and go creative. The one thing that surprised me, but I can tell you I have a small story that backs this up. Most of the businesses continue to increase and push up when they start to advertise to consumers about the holiday push. And I can tell you I was running late with my 4 children. I have 4, believe it or not. And it was the day before Halloween, and I ran into the store. I was getting everyone's costume. I was like a, what we call a redneck. I come from Pennsylvania. That's Pennsylvania and Kentucky put together. Pennsylvania. So I got my mullet, and I got my damn paint and everything for my tattoos. And they started putting up Christmas decorations while they were at the same time taking down Halloween decorations. And I thought, this isn't even cool. My kids are excited for Halloween. Santa Claus is going up, Rudolph's over here. I'm like, what is going on? So we conducted some studies, and it turns out digitally people were doing the same thing. They were sending Black Friday, they were sending Cyber Monday, and Halloween hadn't even been over. So I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. Brands and businesses are trying to push up the holiday push. At the same time, marketers aren't really ready, or consumers aren't really ready for it. They're ready around the end of Thanksgiving, and marketers are trying to push right at the end of Halloween. What do you guys think about that? You think you see the same thing? Yes. All right. By show of hands, how many people think it's ridiculous? Like as a father of 4, I want to let things relax. I want to kind of decompress, and I want to move into the transition to my next holiday nice and relaxed, and it's just getting too cluttered. I'm sure, to no surprise, brands still want to keep you in the app, have you purchase inside the app. We can talk a little bit more about it with some of the folks here today. Obviously, they want you using your credit card. Consumers are continuously, year over year, using more and more of their credit card. I remember a long time ago, my parents were like, I'll never add my credit card to an app or online. That's definitely changing, and we see more and more of it. So before we kick things off with Aurelie and the panel, I'm going to leave you with a couple of tips. If you haven't started your holiday marketing efforts yet, I think get started. And if you are looking for a couple of tips, focus on creative. As I mentioned, it's really important to think about how you're going to engage your audience on each channel that you're marketing them to. Believe it or not, I have big brands that send me assets from online and expect us to make magic work inside of mobile applications. Not only one mobile application. This isn't like, push this up to Facebook. This is like, push this up to this sports app, this utility app, this television. It's mind-blowing. So I would say put the effort in up front. I would say KPI optimization. Less is more sometimes. You don't need a KPI for a KPI for a KPI. I would say start with simple things like return on ad spend, LTVs, make it simple and build from there. I think look for good video sources. Video is king. There's not a lot of great video sources, but more and more are coming on the market, and vet them out, search for them. And then last but not least, re-engagement. Don't be afraid of re-engagement. So many folks are afraid of re-engagement because they have a bad taste in their mouth. They just push out a re-engagement campaign, but they're actually re-engaging users that were poor quality users to begin with. Maybe you ran an incentivized marketing campaign, now you have all these device IDs and you try to re-engage them, it's not going to work. So be smart about how you're going about your re-engagement efforts, but don't be afraid of it. And if you don't have good quality users, start now. Buy high quality users. Don't be so concerned about volume. Get high quality users that you can grow and mature into VIP customers. Without further ado, I'd like to ask Aurelie and the panelists to come up and pass the mic, or the stage.
I'm going to pronounce my last name once and for all. My name is Aurelie. I'm the founder of Akila. What we do is we help you guys scale. So once you've done your 10x, we come and help you when X gets bigger and harder. So it's not just user acquisition, but also monetization, business development, international expansion, whatever it is that you need. And I have the pleasure of having experts here that I'm planning on grilling to get all their secrets for your UA campaigns for the holidays. So why don't you guys start by introducing yourselves, please, and tell us the one thing you have on your Christmas wish list so far.
So again, I'm Leo Giel, the Chief Revenue Officer at YouAppi, and what I would like on my Christmas, what I have on my Christmas list is Amazon Fire TV.
Hi, my name is Diem. I am a growth marketing manager at Tophatter. If you guys don't know, Tophatter is an online shopping marketplace that do 90-second auctions. And for my Christmas list is, I don't know, probably a very long list.
Something on Tophatter?
Yeah. Everything on Tophatter, but I don't know, maybe a bag, I guess. I don't know.
What kind of bag?
Yeah, you
Oh,
got
well,
specific.
I'm Chuck. I am the current director of marketing at Touch and Modern. It's only my third week, so forgive me if some of these answers are just what I've ingested recently. Before this, I was head of acquisition at DoorDash, and then before that, director of marketing at Yelp and eBay and Google before that. For my Christmas wish, I'm gonna go with Leo. I'm definitely looking for a 4K TV. But just as I was about to buy one and start researching, people told me to get an OLED. So if anybody here is an expert on TVs, I do nothing. Let me know which one's better for watching sports and Netflix and Stranger Things. So yeah. And then second one is flights. I travel all the time, so 45 countries. So I'm looking for flight deals all the time.
Send your miles to shot.
Yeah.
So Leo was just mentioning there's a big mismatch between advertisers' eagerness to promote the holidays and consumers' readiness for it. But it's true that the next 6 weeks or so are going to bring about a quarter of the annual mobile commerce revenues in the US, right? So 3 minutes, 3 tips to not mess up in the next 6 weeks. Go, everybody.
So for me, by the way, I'm just going to scoot my chair this way, because I don't want to feel like we're neglecting these folks over here. For me, my advice, and remember I'm coming from a platform side, so I would say number one is don't be afraid to spend money on the inventory. As you all know, the inventory gets more and more expensive, but I think the biggest mistake is don't be afraid to spend the money on the inventory. And I think some of the stuff I talked about earlier about preparations and creative and design, I think that can add a lot of value. So number one, spend the money. Number two, that sounds bad. But number two, be smart about your KPIs and don't I would say optimize your KPIs, don't overthink it. And number three, wow, I would say, I think from a buyer's side, if I were to criticize buyers, and I know that they're busy, you guys are busy, much love, but I think, sometimes you have to schedule those calls so you're communicating with your vendors so that they can better serve your needs. So I would say make the time, spend the money, and then optimize the KPIs.
I'll have a follow-up for you.
Yeah, so my 3 tips, lookalikes, DPAs, and videos. I think that's what's been working really well for us in terms of targeting the right audience during this time of season. During the holiday season, there's
I'm not explaining what DPA is, maybe some people didn't
Oh, sorry. So DPA is a product or dynamic product ads that Facebook, I'll explain as I continue. But so like during the holiday season, there's an influx of like different types of shoppers. Like there's the shopper that shops for themselves because there's a lot of sales, and then there's another type of shopper where there's people who shop for other people, and usually they only shop during this time of year. And there's the third one that it's a combination of both, and regardless of whether there are sales or gifts or not. And so for lookalikes, it's basically targeting these type of users that will buy or are more likely to spend, not necessarily because there's sales or not necessarily because there's like a gifting type of feel. So it works a lot in that sense because these are users that will be similar to the type of users that want to pay, right, or want to buy. And then there's the DPA ads, which target users that are looking for gifts to give. The way the Facebook DPA works is that it shows products to the users that might be interested in this product based on their search history, what they bought across all the other type of e-commerce sites. And so this way you can target a user that might be looking for like, I don't know, some sort of toy on a different site, but you can target this specific user too, who's more in the sense of like gift shopping. And then the third one, which is video, which is, it's very direct, it's very versatile, and it tells a really clear story. And so you can really tap into that emotional aspect of a consumer, and that's how you get them to do what you want because of that emotional thing. And video does that really well. Yep.
Thank you. Chuck, what do you want to add?
One of my three was video, but she said it first, so I had to improvise. One is platform. Platform meaning a lot of people spend money on iPhone, but they forget about other platforms like Android. In fact, shameless plug, I've actually been a multiple-time YouAppi customer simply because they have good Android traffic. A lot of different other ad networks do really well on iPhone, and YouAppi just did well on Android, so it worked out. Don't forget about desktop and mobile web as well. Users might not be the same value, but if you get them for cheaper, go for it. It's not as competitive as well. So that's one platform. Two is segmentation. What I mean by that is, Touch and Modern, for not everyone knows, is a kind of a daily discovery website and app where about every single day there's about 25 different deals on typically men's goods, so all sorts of fashion, luxury items, electronic, toys, art, you name it. And what it really specializes in is it's being about 30% cheaper than Amazon on average, and it only has flash sales that last between 1 to 5 days. So we do a great amount of volume off of people just every morning. They open their app and they're like, oh cool, I didn't know I needed that, and then they buy it. And so segmentation is really important because sometimes we're selling something like, one of our hot sellers is a bracelet. For men mostly, but women wear different colors as well. That's also an iPhone and an Android charging cable, so it's kind of cool. And it only sells for $20. But we also, one of our other big sellers is something like watches, for example. Huge inventory, and they cost $4,000 each. We sell hundreds every weekend, for example. So you really have to think about how you present the ad differently to the type of person. A charging cable, that's a completely different ad. You got to focus on electronics, maybe you have your audience, versus the watch, which is a higher end audience for males mostly. So it's all about segmenting the creative around that and really understanding who your users are, so you're never going to show the same ad. And the third one is offline. It's a little something that a lot of people here in mobile and digital marketing kind of forget about. But I've done a ton of work on TV, on direct mail, on print, on magazine, and every single day it gets cheaper and cheaper. Don't trust as much. It's paper. It's whatever. It's influencer radio. You name it. But it's cheap because people can't track it, so they just naturally say, forget about it. I'm not going to use it. But if you can find a way to attribute it and get it for a lot cheaper on the large scale, then go for it.
So, Diem and Chuck, I want to broaden the topic a little bit because you both are working in commerce sites that have a heavy short-term component to that, whether it's an auction or flash sale. But you had experience at prior companies in non-commerce sites. Were you thinking about holiday promotions differently then, and what's changed?
I can start since they looked at me.
That's starting to
Yeah, I'll answer that from both a non-e-commerce side, working in the food delivery industry for 4 or 5 years. For DoorDash, everyone orders food, but when it gets cold and during Christmas season, a lot of people order for potlucks. There's Friendsgiving, there's Christmas potlucks, etc., Christmas gatherings. And so you definitely want to tailor your creative around the social aspect of the holidays. And so you also want to factor in that ads get a lot more expensive, and Leo mentioned that you shouldn't be afraid to spend. I definitely agree. However, if you're like a non-e-commerce app, you should look to avenues where it's cheaper. So places where retail's not advertising, and those could be things like influencers, you name it. Those could be things like working with the non-Facebook, non-Google channels, you name it. So it's really about just buying without thinking about the competition, or excuse me, with thinking about the competition, but not focusing on much of like the competitive cost. And then from the e-commerce side, thinking about just kind of holiday. It's kind of obvious, but you want to tell your creative around, these are gifts, buy it for your family, etc.
Thank you. And
I think there's a question in the audience as well.
Yeah.
See, I only use my United Media WhatsApp. How do you penetrate me? Like, I don't see any pop from.
So the question is, why do you not see advertising in WhatsApp?
Right. So I only use like few apps
Yeah.
which are my daily use. And how do
Okay.
you, yeah.
So I will make a note of this question, and we'll make sure to add it towards the end, because I want to make sure that we hear Diem's answer. But thank you. Well, I'm sure that you will have a good one, good answer for you on that one. And thank you, Chuck, also for mentioning some tips for people who don't have a mobile commerce app, because clearly that the holiday period impacts everyone, whether you're hopeful for more business in the holidays or whether you're still trying to meet your user acquisition targets. Diem, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in commerce, non-commerce for the holidays?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for non-commerce type of apps, it is very expensive, especially in gaming. And so I think one of, like Chuck mentioned, utilizing something else besides media buying, that like Facebook, Google is very important. I think that during this time when media buying is really expensive, you should think about what else you can do that is less costly. For example, increasing your ASO to optimize towards this holiday type of theme, right? And it gets people more motivated because they're in this sense of holiday spirit. And in addition to that, there's like other things that you can do internally, not just like a UA effort where you can offer some sort of gifting to your user, or like in like a discount sense. And so that way you can retain your valuable users as well as get them to talk more about it, because they are in the spirit of the holidays and they're more willing to give. And I think it's important to just utilize stuff that are not as costly.
So I wanted us to think about the term holidays, right? Because from a pure transactional standpoint, we've had Black Friday and then Cyber Monday and Prime Day and Singles Day in China and all of these other holidays. And it's almost a continuum in the sphere that we're hitting right now. So how are you guys thinking about each and every one of those dates? And are you tailoring your strategies for each and every one of these holidays? Particularly the ones that are coming in November, December right now.
For me, again, it's a platform. I don't have much strategy. I kind of just support clients' needs. I can tell you all of these were very big events last year, way beyond my expectations, and clients basically went all in. And I would say,
Would they differentiate, or would they just have it continue from now until Christmas?
No. I'm saying for the 3 events that you mentioned, I'd say that there was no lid on the budget. There was all you can do.
Sort of agree. We're talking.
I'm not saying that that's what you should do. I'm just saying this is what I was seeing. And but it makes sense. I mean, if this is where you're connected, an commerce experience, why not? It's the biggest. That's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, from Tophatter's perspective, we are a profitable company, and so for us, we like to maintain profitability. And despite how low the CPI is or how low the CPA is, we want to maintain this profitability, not just spend during this time of year or this time of like the events. And so for us, we go in with like a very, very stringent like look at how the CPAs are looking and how our unit economics is looking during this time. If it's good, we'll scale up, and we monitor very, very closely in order to maintain that profitability. But we do, typically do level up on these type of events because people are in the spirit of spending, and so when they want to spend, we want to spend too, just not to the point where we're going to be unprofitable. So that's one of the things that we as Tophatter really, really think about when we start putting more budget into UA.
And have you seen, like, a few other retailers that the spend is migrating, the consumer spend is migrating from Black Friday to Cyber Monday, or to even the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or is it pretty uniform for you?
It's for us, it's usually the day following up into these type of events that we see an influx of like users coming in and users converting really, really high. Typically after that, we notice like a slight drop, not too much, but once we were able to retain the users, or get those users, we were able to retain it even further. And so that's like the next step after, these different events.
Yeah, definitely tailor the offer. It's going to be different on Black Friday and Cyber Monday versus the Saturday, Sunday in between, the days prior, the days after. And that's important because you want your customers and your new users and everyone checking you out to feel like you have a genuine offer. You don't want to just say 20% off everything for the next, 5 weeks. It makes you look kind of like blah. And so, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we're going to have a strict offer, and we're going to send out definitely more push, email, internal notifications around you only have X amount of hours left to get this offer. And we want to make it real, and so users who show up at 12:01 on Saturday morning aren't going to get that offer. They'll probably get some sort of discount, but it won't be the same. So we want people to really take advantage and buy during that time. And from a spend standpoint, yeah, the same exact way. We'll spend on ad networks and we'll tailor the creative around it, and to really make it the users feel like we made a conscious effort of having this deal and that this is the best offer they can get, and we're not going to just make it generic.
Thank you. You mentioned testing creatives a few times now. How do you properly set up your Monday creatives?
Yeah, so this goes back to the traditional marketing style, and we're back to the college days of looking at color, looking at copy, looking at where you put the offer. Of course, segmentation. If you're advertising to young people in a certain geography versus another, people in New York, age 18 to 25, respond very differently than people in a suburb, 45 to 55. So it's really making that creative. So a lot of it is looking at historical reports, also looking at what your competitors are doing well. Our competitor. We don't really have a direct competitor. It's kind of Amazon. Amazon has obviously faster shipping. We have cheaper prices, and obviously they have more products, but we have products that they don't have. And so it's just understanding of what they're doing well and trying to copy that, and obviously trying to target the users who convert on websites. And so Facebook and Google allow you to really target people who are fans of your competitors. And so those people who probably pay for their goods, and it's the best type of people to target.
That makes sense. So once you've done your creatives, you've set up your segmentation, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. There are lots of stuff that you need to make sure are ready, right? And one of them that you were mentioning when we started talking about the Diem is you need to make sure your product is ready as well. Can you tell us a bit more about this and how do you make sure your product is ready for the holidays?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, during the holiday season, there's like up to 21% increase in users, and so for us, Tophatter is an auction site, and so there's a limited amount of auctions that are being shown at a specific point in time. And so for us, we have to be really prepared to predict how many users are we going to get for that moment in time, and be able to allow for a certain amount of auction lots, that's what we call them, so that the competition is just enough so that users. Just enough so that buyers are happy and suppliers are happy at the same time. Because if there's too much competition, then the buyers will be like, this is too expensive. Or if there's not enough competition, then suppliers will not be happy with how much they're selling for the product, right? And so we prepare really well. We predict the amount of users that we will want to come in, and make predictions based on that. On the supplier side, but sometimes those predictions might not go entirely correct, and so we're constantly monitoring, and so we have like this auto schedulers that monitors how many users are there and how many auctions we should constantly pump out or take back, and so that's something that we continue to monitor on our platform and be able to prepare for that.
That's a really fascinating example. We'd love to learn more about the algorithm behind this. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it's great.
Yeah, really to know about the times it doesn't work. So Chuck, you mentioned earlier being a big fan of offline, and I was curious if made me think about all these products that we know of that help you track and attribute offline. And I'm curious what you use and what are some of your tricks of the trade to be able, as a marketer, to estimate your ROI on any offline spend that you do?
Yeah, so I run a lot of, I believe like TV and radio and just traditional offline, like 10% of everyone's budget. Notice I didn't say like 50 or 60, 10% small. And that's because every day it does technically get cheaper, and studies can show that as mobile, only because mobile, as everyone knows, you can actually track it to an actual click. And so how do you actually track performance of offline? Well, you know, there's plenty of tools you can use. There's some crazy ones out there. As some people here might know, this might be life-changing for people. Facebook has what they call beacon technology, and so if you say the word Louis Vuitton or something like that, you'll see an ad. You might see an ad. If I say the word I'm hungry, you might see an ad. So if you ever wondered why you said something or someone was just chatting and you see an ad, it's all about that. Anyways, that's strength of the point. The tools I use could be advanced as like beacon technology and looking at things like that, or it could be really as simple as you run an ad and all you do is measure like the new traffic to your website, your app within a 10-minute window or so. And if there is a huge spike, you can sort of attribute it. Another way of doing a good test is, let's say you really want to see if your offline works. So you just advertise in certain geos or segments. Let's say you say, I'm only going to advertise in Chicago, Dallas, Texas, and Miami, Florida. So what you do is you see all the traffic that comes from those two regions, and you can say any spike that's abnormal is probably from offline. And you measure that within whatever it is, 10 minutes since you showed the ad, a day, etc. And so you're really looking for that. And then of course, you also want to do surveying. It's not perfect science, but surveys still matter. So you send out all your new customers or all the people who found you. You say, how did you hear about us? And maybe you put TV, you put banner ad on the website, whatever. And if you start seeing a lot of people say TV, then you can kind of attribute it that way. So a little bit more of the old school technique, but still works.
Theo, have you seen that our clients have been asking you guys to support some kind of online to offline attribution?
More and more, but it's still so small, it's not enough to move the needle. We haven't really done anything to address it. It's just not, it's not a scalable business for us at this point. We do some surveys. Chuck has a good point there. There's a lot of ways to easily follow advertisements with surveys to learn what's working, what's not, and understand your audience. But for the most part, there's not much online offline.
So all three of you are huge video fans. You mentioned it in your presentation. You both mentioned it earlier as one of your top 3 strategies. Can you help us a little bit with video production costs? And how do you, as an advertiser or as a platform, how do you help your clients? How do you make sure that costs remain manageable, particularly when you want to do all the holiday custom creatives that you mentioned? And how do you stay on time with video production as well?
And Aurelie, can you guys feel the louder?
Okay, sure.
So, can you guys hear when they speak in the back? We're just telling them to say louder.
Okay, we have thumbs up.
You're allowed to get here.
Thank you.
So for YouAppi, we actually offer, I'm kind of like Chuck. I came through ranks like print and production and outdoor, so I understand the value of how you present a brand or an advertisement. And one of the things that I fought for a long time with my CEO was we need to offer creative solutions. We need to offer a creative studio. So I'm happy to announce about a year ago, we offer creative for free. And we think that as a loss, but we understand the value of creative. And if you were here earlier and heard me speak about launching a set of creatives to try and reach thousands of different types of audiences, it just doesn't work. So we wanted to alleviate that burden, make it simple for some of our advertisers, and help the ones that just aren't there with the resources so that they can have a solid creative strategy, allow to deploy video if they don't have the ability to create video assets, and take advantage of the booming video verticals.
Yeah, so for Tophatter, we actually outsource all our videos to a company called Tube Science, and what they do is, they pump out like tons and tons of videos for us, and we would either set them on, Facebook or Google, etc. And depending on how well those videos perform, we pay based on that amount, right? Like a certain percentage. And so we only pay when the video does well. And so I think that model for us so far has been working really, really well. And so for the holidays, they're constantly pumping out new types of creatives, new innovations, so that for us we're able to test all of those different creatives for the holidays, and it's just very efficiently spent in terms of like how much money goes into creatives and videos.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Mine's a little similar to Diem's. The strategy is you want to start off during the summertime or way before holiday. A little late now, so sorry. Yes, we were just trying to do video today. But you really want to go with the generic cookie cutter approach, meaning find one of these companies like the ones you talked about that they'll charge you $500,000, and they kind of put it through one of their 50 templates. Kind of like if you're making a Wix or one of those simple home pages, and you're just using their template, you're just picking one of their top 50, and you see how that works out. If it does, and then you try about 2 or 3 different versions. You make them very, very different. You make 30 and 15 seconds. You want to make the 2 15-second ones kind of similar, what they call bookends. So you do an A and then a B, so people see the first and last. And you make the 30-second one extremely different from that, so you kind of measure. And if you don't know which one works better, look at the one that has the higher click-through rate, or the one with the most kind of where people view it the longest. And you can see that like YouTube, you can buy traffic for like 5 cents every single view, so it's not bad. And then from there, you find out which one works better, and then you really find an agency, a true video creative, and you make a fancy video, and then you pay whatever, $5,000, $50,000. I ran a Super Bowl ad with Snoop Dogg a couple of years ago for Giel, and that was after a lot of just different iterations on $1,000 ads to see what really works. And we found out that funny combined with cheeseburgers, combined with nachos and French fries were a great audience for sports fans, for etc. Snoop Dogg is still a hit, and so you start off with a simple approach, testing different A/B creatives 15-30, and then you go into the high-end value from there. But one thing to note that I learned over the years from a lot of trial and error is whoever's making your video, make sure that they have some sort of creative clause where you can edit something out or swap out like a screen of your app inside the video, so that you're not stuck paying someone $20,000 to edit it, which I've seen before. So it's like, hey, if I need your services, you charge me $100 to swap the screen out. Something like that.
That's a good tip, for sure. So do you ship different video creatives to different user segments, right? And how are you thinking about user segmentation and calculating LTV appropriately for those segments?
Yeah, this is so there's a lot of testing going on, especially the best part about working with different ad networks, unlike YouTube will just charge you a flat 5 cents for every single person who views it, is you can kind of pay for on the install or on like a first event. So it's a little safer, and you risk less, and so you can say, hey, this video had 20,000 views before someone actually installed it. And so you kind of look at those numbers to determine which video works best for you. And therefore, then you can then segment the video out accordingly. So you might put the call to action first, you might change it up completely, but yeah, you definitely want to segment depending on your audience. And a lot of it's just changing little minute things inside it. So.
And you get all the videos you're recording from your ad networks?
Most of it, yeah.
Gotcha.
Most of it, no.
How about other LTV calculations? Do you look at them as well based on the creative, or do you just have a higher level?
Yeah, so I think about LTV, which is, for people who don't know, it's lifetime value. What it means is basically how much money a customer is going to contribute to you over whatever designated period, 1 year, 3 year, 10 year. And a lot of it's kind of a guesswork based on just kind of like early cohorts. And I looked at it on almost 25 different levels. So I think about what's the LTV of a user who comes in with a discount? What's the LTV of a user who comes in on a weekday versus weekend? On a creative that's more on a product that might be cheaper versus a product more expensive, male, female, you name it, demographic, customer, everything. So yeah, I really try to target that down. And I do make it complicated personally, but you don't have to go with that deep.
And I think there's probably a different pattern of how early you capture the lifetime of a user that's on the commerce side versus a user that's on food delivery side, for example, right? So what's your typical rule of thumb in terms of how long you project LTV out?
Yeah, I will say I like to project LTV out to 3 years. 1 year is kind of too short. You know, a lot of things can happen to a user in 1 year. But if you really can start tracking someone over the course of 3 years and then projecting that out, that is kind of like your internal measure your company's going to survive and really have customers going to work for you year over year.
Okay. Any tips before you hit that 3 year mark as a company, or how do you model out? 3 years is a long time for many companies that are out there.
Yeah, find a data expert who knows regression modeling. Is not me. Find someone who's great with numbers and really have them kind of model that out and kind of track on like different SQL data cohorts over time to make sure they kind of follow that blend. So a lot more map than the traditional.
I think that touches upon the re-engagement question that he was mentioning earlier, that a lot of marketers are unhappy with, and I think the reasons that you're unhappy with your re-engagement is because you didn't acquire the right kind of users, and because as you said, they're not bringing the right kind of LTV. So are you, based on what you've seen, are you seeing some successful examples of re-engagement campaigns? And
Yeah.
Can you share
I would
some
say,
tips there?
I would say there's some smart folks out there like Chuck thinking about, how to do it and kind of, just not, sometimes you see, a lot of reckless user acquisition. I don't know. I guess user acquisition folks sometimes get paid bonuses based on, installs or rankings or something. That's not always in line with the company's best interest. So, I understand where it's broken. So I'm gonna go out and get the cheapest installs as quickly as possible, and I don't really always care about the value of that. They're good quality. And the problem, they probably jump and move on or get hired somewhere else, and then someone comes along and sits down with me and says, I want to do a re-engagement campaign. I have 10 million users I want to re-engage. I said, well, how do you get them? And a lot of times I won't even kick it off because I don't want to set them up to fail. I don't want them to lose, waste budget. So there's some, I can't mention some of the names, but some very large gaming companies that are clients of ours that have embraced re-engagement and are having a tremendous amount of success in very large retail companies as well. So there are a few, and I suspect over the next couple of years you're going to see a lot more, but it's still touching.
What's a typical success metric for a re-engagement campaign?
It really depends. I mean, it's everyone has something different. I don't have it off the top of my head a good success metric for retail. It could be some of the retailers, they just want you to re-engage with the app and maybe make it a simple purchase, one-time purchase. But it varies. It's all over.
It used to be, I remember on online only, that goods retargeting campaigns did about 10% extra revenue. So I'm curious if you're seeing better numbers in mobile, lower numbers?
A lot of times that information isn't even shared with us. Like there's the number we're told, and then there's the real number. I think some folks.
You don't trust the
No,
numbers you see?
No. It's not like they're lying to us. They give us our KPIs, and then they have KPIs they don't share with us. So I think I'm sure a lot of times it's a buying strategy as well, so that they get better rates from us. I think there's definitely some folks who are achieving similar results, but it's still too early to tell. Well, because we're only mobile. There's companies like Criteo that are online guys who come to mobile, and we're mobile only.
Any more input? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So for Tophatter, it's a bit difficult just because, our site is the auction site, and for like retargeting, you want to show a certain product for a user to click on and then pay to buy that specific product. Whereas for us, it's a bit challenging because, you can't just automatically show that specific product right away. There's like a scheduler that shows the product later on so they can basically like it. But we do a lot of, not a lot, a medium-sized amount of retargeting using like Criteo. And the way we see performance is if the amount that we spend, as long as we get about, I believe it's 6x in terms of revenue, then we see that as performing. Because for us, we're on marketplace, and because users, they come in, they buy a certain item, we only take a percentage of that. And so for us, 6x is around that number that works really well. If it's anything higher than that, great. But for us, there's a certain revenue amount that we want to hit for it to be successful.
I actually agree with that 6x number for e-commerce, because typically if you sell a product for $100, you as an e-commerce company, after you pay for the lights and insurance and everything, you make about $15. So 6 times 15 is kind of making money back. That makes sense. I'll break down retargeting. It's actually really confusing. I want to say most people don't even know what retargeting is. They kind of lump it into one. There's 3 types of retargeting. One is users who went to your site, visited your store, downloaded your app, and never made a purchase. And so what's a good tip for them? Target them after 14 days. That's my kind of tried and true tip. The reason is you don't want to pay for retargeting on the first 14 days because they might still make an action. So after 14 days, they're kind of essentially gone for the most part. And so that's one. The second type of retargeting is people who are former customers of yours who haven't paid for something in a while, whether that's like 90 days, and they call that churn, lapse, whatever. The tip I would give there is give them a coupon. Measure like what happens when you give them a coupon or a deal or send them an email with a nice offer and see if they come back. And then what's more important is not only do they come back, do they continue to come back and order afterwards. So you have to measure that. And then the third one is your brand new customers who just paid for something. How do you get them to order again? There's this thing in marketing called magic moments, and it's no different than dating. You get on 3 dates with someone, and by the third date, you probably know if you're in or you're out, right? So it's the same thing as on the e-commerce side. If you get someone to order 3 times, they either really like you or they don't. So whatever reason they order 3 times, maybe you give them a bunch of coupons, whatever, it's the same exact thing. So get someone to order 3 times, and then that is like the point where you know everything after that, they're gonna stick with you or they're gonna quit. So really simple.
Targeting is like dating, I'll remember that. So you were all saying the holidays are all hands on deck, that's not much time. Do you try new media channels during that time, or do you only go through to your, tried and true sources?
I can tell you this. For Tophatter, no, we don't. Just because we know what works, and the holiday season is like what we want to capitalize the most. And in order to do that, we want to be sure that all the channels that we're using is optimal, right? And so testing, maybe even if you're testing like a couple percentage of your budget, we, like I said before, we're a profitable company, so we want to make sure like every single amount of money that we put into, we get something back. And so testing new channels during this period is not the best strategy for us. Then again, for other companies, it might be a lot different.
Yeah, for the most part, the answer is no. Just so busy with holiday sales and everything going on that normally I like to test 1 to 2 different new marketing things, whatever things is from the blank a week, but right now it's just too small. I mean, I also be like, take the initial intro call with you guys. Don't even know what's being asked.
Yeah, I get it. And I work with a lot of clients who need help scaling, right? And so their question to me is always, how many media channels should we have? So I'm going to turn the question to you guys. How many media channels do you have at any given time?
Sometimes it goes up to like 30 plus, 50 plus even. But for us right now, it used to be the way where we're like, we want to, put our eggs in multiple baskets, right? But now we're seeing that being able to spend more time with certain channels makes a lot more sense for us, just because we want to optimize to the best that we can. And for us, like having at least like 10, maybe 20 is like the optimal number where we can focus a lot of our attention on our on a bigger scale with smaller amount of channels.
Yeah, I agree. About 20 seems like a lot. Probably most of your money's going to go into 3 or 4. And the reason why you need so many is simply because things in marketing change by the day. For example, when you're running something well, and let's say you're spending $100,000 a month and it's working great, maybe your competitor comes in with funding or whatever and kills your budget. They start bidding higher than you, they do better than you, whatever it is, and so you need to diversify the portfolio. So I do think 10 to 20 is like the right kind of mix.
And when you say you're testing 1 to 2 marketing things, that could also include new media channels that you bring into the mix, right? How about newer stuff, like, Alexa, IoT, like brand new, different kind of media channels? Are you excited by them? Are you doing pilots with them? Or is it just something that you say, that's great, but I'll wait until it gets there to worry about it?
I can go. I definitely believe in testing with new technologies. Just because when you get it in an early run, it's dirt cheap. For example, Facebook, while everyone thinks it's been around for a while, Facebook advertising has only been around for 6 years or so. Facebook mobile app install advertising has been around for 4 years. And when I was back at the days of E24, before it was acquired by Giel, I was buying installs for $2 a day before the Candy Crushers, the Machine Zones, and Tinders get on board. And so, it was the early days, and there was no such thing as an account manager. You kind of just set it up yourself and put a bid in and hope for the best, and all of a sudden I'm spending $3 million a month for $2 installs, and it's working amazingly. And of course, 4 or 5 months later, everyone finds out, and it gets really competitive. That install becomes $8, $9, and that's kind of what's going on with Apple search ads these days, and a lot of other things. And so, yeah, get on board quick and fast. And right now, new technologies like dynamic product feeds are huge, just showing products that people might be inclined to see based on their behavior. Use button, deep linking with branch, things like that are all over as well.
Yeah, I mean, for like Google Home or like Alexa, those type of things, it's a bit difficult. I mean, I can't really imagine how the ad space will look like when they do roll out that type of ad unit, if that's even possible, just because for Tophatter, we're more like a discovery type of, shopping network. It's not like an Amazon where you go there, you know exactly what you want to buy, and you know that you'll get this specific product once you order it. Whereas like for using Google Home, if you order stuff on Tophatter, you're like, okay, what are you ordering and what am I bidding on? It's kind of like there's this trust issue because one, there's no images. Two, there's no like testimonial reviews that you can really rely on to make sure that the product that you're buying is high quality or not. And so there's like this big challenge of like a trust within the consumers because of this whole it's just voice, like you can't always believe in the words that people say or et cetera. And so I think there's going to be a lot of hurdle to advertise on that type of platform if they even have it in the future.
Leo, I know you were excited by all this new stuff, so what are you envisioning?
I'm just excited because I think about, I'm a father of 4. I have, and Amazon's a client, in all honesty, I'm a big user. When I go home, my Amazon Fresh delivery is on my doorstep. When I go upstairs, when I go to get a soda or something that's not there, I use Amazon Dash to order more soda. If I go to sit down and watch TV, I tell Alexa to turn on the TV, and then I order a movie through Alexa, and I'm watching the movie that I want, and I think it's pretty powerful. When I wake up in the morning and I go to check my email, I tell Alexa to update me on my day. So I think there's definitely a play there. I think, from my perspective, it's more of a presence and less of an ad play right now. And I think I would assume, given the time I spent in mobile, just a matter of time until folks like those here with us today start to take advantage of the platform. And it's just an easier way to access products and services. And I think it's something to consider.
From a business perspective, I think it's important for marketers of all sorts to try to make deals with new technology. I don't have any in mind, but what I'm trying to say is reach out to these people who are working in these high-tech companies on these cool things that you thought didn't exist, and see if you can do some deals. And so how do you do a deal? Maybe you just bargain down to, I'm going to pay you only on a new customer on a click or whatever you can drive, and that way it kind of mitigates the risk of paying them for like whatever, $100,000 for a set fee to try something out. So if they're willing to make some money and they want to promote you in somehow, it's worth a shot from that negotiation standpoint.
Yeah. So I want to get one last tip from you guys. If there's anyone in the audience that is just listening to this panel and thinking, oh shit, I'm not ready for the holidays, what should they do starting tomorrow morning?
From my perspective, if you were talking to me 3 years ago, I'd never bought anything. My wife took me to the shopping mall. I became instantly lethargic. I was hanging on things. So she's like, "You're a grown man, get up." What's the matter? I'm like, "I'm gonna get a coffee. It's cool." But today, I'm like a little kid. Every time I have a chance, I'm buying things. I get in an Uber, I see something I like, or the driver has a clone out. By the time the Uber's over, it's being delivered to my home. So I think, from my perspective, embrace it. And I don't know where I was going. I got so excited about
What do they get to do tomorrow morning to embrace it?
So tomorrow morning,
Other than calling you.
So to back to my point, I'm such a mobile-focused guy, mobile-centric guy. I do nothing unless it's in the palm of my hand. I don't buy anything online. I don't buy things in stores. I buy it all from my phone. So if you are not on someone's most valuable real estate, tomorrow morning you can find a way to get there. And you have to pay top dollar to get there, do it. Because it's the only way to connect with this consumer and future consumers. And I can tell you, we don't have television at home. No disrespect to your TV model. We're cord cutters. All my children have multiple devices, and you can't reach them. unless you're connecting through digital and user-generated content and all these channels we're talking about.
Well, first off, you should be fired. Just kidding. You're not. Luckily, like,
I thought she was talking to me. I was like, I only forgot where my train of thought.
No, I mean, planning in advance is very, very important, especially during the holiday season. But if you haven't planned in advance, lucky for you, in ad performance, data drives. And so the first thing you can do is just crank out some holiday creatives. Get your designer or someone in your company to design something that's like remotely, holiday themed type of creatives, and launch them. Just launch them on Facebook, launch them on different ad networks like YouAppi, and see how they do. And if they don't perform well, pause them. That's how quickly things get done in performance marketing. And so you're at luck. And the second is, monitor every single day. That's your consequence for not, preparing in advance. And so if you look at the data every single day, things will be good and make changes based on what you're seeing, on the hourly basis, maybe every 3 hours. And third, pray.
Mine's kind of a combination of what they both said. Not all of us are in marketing, or not all of us have done marketing forever. There are 2 places you can go to get a new customer in the next hour. There's Facebook and there's Google. There's plenty of ad networks that can do it much better or much cheaper or much easier, but you can set up an account on Facebook and Google, and the next hour you will find a customer. You might be horrible at it, but if you have an app or a website, get traffic on there, try your best. If not, hired and sold. There's plenty of websites online you can hire and sold within 24 hours. And try it out, set some low budget, and really start driving real installs. I mean, shameless plug, touch of modern, but we drive a ton of people. Obviously, the better demographics perform better, but people are interested in the products. They don't really know what they're going to buy, and so they discover, and a good amount of people do end up making a purchase. And so, shameless plug, make all your Christmas shopping on Touch of Modern, 30% off. But set something up, put a couple $100 and you'll get a customer, most likely, or whatever, by tomorrow. So, and then continue to optimize on that.
Cool. So I always like my panelists to put a line in the sand that I can quote back to them a year from now. Last year, mobile commerce for Black Friday topped $1 billion. What's your number for this year?
Are you talking about just e-commerce, or are you talking about
M-commerce.
Everything on mobile?
Just M-commerce.
Mobile commerce.
Mobile commerce.
Globally or?
U.S.
So U.S. last year, mobile commerce did $1 billion.
$1 billion on Black Friday. Look at you trying to be scientific about it. Just not a number of it.
1.5 billion.
Yeah.
How much?
1.5 billion.
I was going to say 1.6. That's okay. I just want to be honest. I had 1.6 in my mind. You skipped the line. I've been going first.
I was going to say 1.5, but I'll go, just because I've seen how much growth of like the Amazons and the Ubers and even the DoorDashes of the world, people are totally willing to buy online now than they were 2 years ago. I'm going to go 1.7.
All right, let's talk again in 2 weeks. Let's see.
We're going to have to do a follow-up, Jennifer. Who wins? 1.6, 7, or 8? Wait, 1.5, 6, or 7?
4, 6, or 100.
So I know we had a few questions in the panel, so I'm going to start with this gentleman's question, which was, how do you reach me if I use apps that don't have advertising in it? So will you please reveal all your secrets and tell him how you managed to target him on this?
Well, first I think you said WhatsApp and a United app.
Yeah.
So first of all, those apps don't have advertising in them. They're not advertising to the consumer. So what we would typically do if we wanted to reach, not you specifically, but your demographic, we're collecting data on 2 billion profiles for many years. So we would just then go into our system and configure a campaign to target someone of your gender, age, economic profile, and that's how we would go about it.
Chuck kind of gave some idea how to get there using the Facebook beacon. So you can't just do standalone. You have to have some partnership with some
Yes,
infrastructure companies.
the question is, even with the Facebook beacon, you still have to have a places that you're advertising your partnership, right? Can you spend a bit more on the Facebook beacon work?
I mean, I don't even know how the Facebook beacon works. I just type in interested, it finds people who's interested in that. So, everything to do with magic. That's what you works everywhere for. I would say to reach someone like you, if you're not a person who clicks on ads, I would do a referral campaign. I would say, hey, invite your friends, your family. Here's $20 off, and see what happens. You know, there's all sorts of marketing ways to get someone who might not click on ads.
Any other questions for the panelists? Go ahead.
So you guys talked a lot about ad networks and Google and Facebook. What have you guys seen with the evolution of programmatic and kind of automating a lot of technologies in one stack? You guys talked about like using 20 or 30 different technologies, but what about using one platform and plugging into 20 or 30 different suppliers? Does that bring the efficiency into the market, especially as the ad networks start to open up, exchange programmatically and getting more information there?
I can tell you from our perspective, we get approached a lot to integrate into those systems, and we take away our competitive advantage. So we're really building proprietary data and inventory that you can't reach through those channels. So that's kind of why we have a business. But there, you know, I'm sure the two of them can tell you a little bit more. There's a lot of folks making this switch, but I remember probably 7 years ago, I heard all this programmatic talk. No one's going to have a job for programmatic, and I'm still here. You know, we're doing quite nicely. So
I'm very interested in the question though, because I would say up until this year in mobile, I have heard from my clients as much success as online. Online, people were very enthusiastic about it, but in mobile, it was a lot of talk about not much budget. I think this year there's been a shift, so I wanted to hear if that's what you've seen as well, or your experience as well in how you're allocating your budgets.
Yeah, I would agree to that, but at the same time, so it's, for me, I've always hired for SEM managers, paid social managers, and they're not that hard to find or teach. Programmatic seems a lot harder. I've had job recs open for 6-7 months trying to find the right person who blends web versus app, and it's been hard to find. So I have to go to these ad networks and kind of do it in-house, just because I can't find someone to do it. It's a full-time job. So from my perspective, I don't have an expertise on programmatic, and I'd rather just go straight to the ad network as long as it makes back my return on ad.
Yeah, and for us, you know, we just can't get it to work. So, you know, we put our money where it's been working, and so far, programmatic hasn't been one of the channels that, you know, we're pulling. So.
I mean, one other thing to add, from my perspective, I feel like programmatic is like you can just find the next best day trader to outperform everyone else. And you're all fishing in the same spot. So for someone who's trying to get quality users, you know, it really, and from my perspective, isn't a great strategy.
It's worked online, so I think there's a lot of technical challenges on mobile, and there's a lot of lack of knowledge, and also frankly a lot of lack of tools. It will eventually get there, but the question is when. Like, and on the publisher side, programmatic is quite horrendous so far, so it's not there yet. But it's still challenges. I think you're right, and the ROI piece is very challenging, and I still have more brands that are on the smarter programmatic these days, because that's what they're used to from a format standpoint. They do it online and port it over. There was a question around here? Questions?
Can you talk about user acquisition, like choosing between CPI and CPA, and how you make that decision?
Yeah, sure. So from my perspective, YouAppi built their business on CPI. I've been in this business a long time. I've built an SDK business tied to gaming before, and we've tried every model out there. Now, the trick is, you know, when you're building a business, we were always very laser focused. We want to have revenue share with our publishers, and we want to allow someone to buy a CPI, and we want to work in the CPI model, right? Some folks will go buy on exchanges on the CPM, convert it to a CPC, then to a CPI, sell it to you, and then have to make the mechanics work. That is a very risky model, in my opinion. Some people can make it work, but if you go to sleep, something breaks, it can go haywire very fast. So I think, from my perspective, running a CPI business, we did go into CPA for some larger strategic clients, but it was a simple, it was a much safer, quite honestly, we make better profit on a CPA, but it's not going from a CPM to a CPC to a CPI to a CPA. We're going from a CPI to a CPA. So we do allow our partners, quite honestly, she's about to launch a CPA against a CPI campaign she ran in the past, and it works very well for some people. And from an advertising perspective, I think it's smart, right? If you can buy only an acquired user, that's genius. And then it's a win-win from a partner standpoint. If I can drive a stable, reliable business model and only make that one conversion rather than 5 or 6 or how many ever, I can offer her a great service and we can have a long-standing partnership. So I think I would A/B test both of them, and my partners will do that for you. And I would push them to whitelist and be very transparent about it.
Any other questions?
You mentioned that you should run all the advertising campaigns together, but there is a Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas coming. Would you recommend to run all different types of campaigns at once, or put them, schedule it, for example, Black Friday, but run until Black Friday, and after Black Friday, start on Cyber Monday? And after
Definitely
Cyber
schedule. I don't. Sure. So I think the question was, someone, I hope it wasn't me, said that we should run all the campaigns together, and I don't think anyone said that up here. So the question was, should you run Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the holiday promotions all at one time, or separate them and stop and start them? I think we all agree that you definitely want to do one after the other. Take the time, I would reiterate, take the time and build quality creatives, well thought through creatives, multiple sets of creatives to connect with all of your marketing channels, and then I would start and stop them. And you guys probably answer that better than I do.
Yeah, there's like this number that I saw in some report that seems to hold true for me for the last 15 years is 3 impressions. So what that means is show someone an ad 3 times on Black Friday, 3 times on Cyber Monday, and then, well, holidays plenty, but on those days, at least 3 times. And that's kind of like the peak frequency. You show them like 5, 6 times, and then you're spamming them. You show them once, it's not enough. So yeah, stop and start it if you can, especially if it's like an online channel where you can just change it up.
Do you use machine learning or predictive analysis in UA?
Both. So the way that
I think a big question would be whether that is to use machine learning or
and predictive analysis in our platform, and the answer is all of the above. So the easiest way I can explain the way our platform works is we're collecting data from all these different sources. One publisher might tell me your age, another one might tell me your gender, one might tell me where you live, I might collect your music preferences, etc. And at the same time, I start to track additional layers of behavior, and I start to build profiles about it. And then what we'll do is we'll start to test assumptions, right? So let's say I have 85% of the profile built based on the hard facts that I just mentioned. I'll start to predict that, oh, you might like this type of ad, and then I watch how you interact, and then based on how you interact with that, I collect data and I form a better opinion. So we kind of test it that way. So it's hard fact and assumptions combined, predictions.
Question for you guys, mobile web, how important are mobile web conversions for you? Or what percentage of revenue goes through that channel? And or do you send them to download the app, or do you optimize around them purchasing on mobile web?
mobile web and mobile commerce.
Yeah, I mean, mobile web is very important when it comes to mobile commerce. I mean, most people would, type in their mobile web to search, but we see value in a lot of in the apps. And so when they go to our website, we offer them the suggestion to download the app, which for the most part it works really well. But we invest a lot in terms of mobile web as well, just because our mobile web traffic is relatively high, not as high as our desktop and mobile app, but we do invest a lot of our UA budget, or a certain amount of our UA budget, especially on Facebook and more content ad types of platform. Like, for example, we do a lot on like the mobile website for that. And so it works really well, especially for e-commerce.
Yeah, mobile web is about something like 15% of overall e-commerce, which isn't a huge amount. So what Diem said, try to get them to download the app when they enter your mobile web. If they don't, then it's simple. You just send them an email or whatever, and you say, hey, download our app, and it works. You know, people, simple rule in marketing, the easiest thing you can ever learn is people do what you tell them to do. And so if you tell them, hey, after they've done an order, download our app. Here's X% off, or here's a reason why. It'll be faster. You can do this in 2 clicks, you can reorder, whatever. It works. So that's the answer is yeah. Use it as a mechanism to get people into the app.
Want to do one more question?
Yes, one more question. Go ahead.
Do you have the stats between the mobile apps, like the smartphones, and then the tablets?
Like usage overall in the United States?
Yeah, usage in 60.
Yeah, it's 60%. If you're factoring the desktop too, it's 40% iOS.
No, just the tablets and the mobile and the smartphones, not the desktops.
Oh.
Because I think that's like something to.
It's been dying. iPads aren't selling as high as they used to be. Nobody's buying the big phablets, what do they call them? It's like 90 to 10 these days.
Yeah, I think commerce last year, in terms of mobile commerce sales, was 65% smartphone, 35% tablet on Black Friday, for example.
But that's actually kind of unfair because they make tablets so cheap that people bought more tablets than they actually have.
They did, and I think the commerce factor is easier on tablets for socializing as well during,
Is that
holidays.
just, I'm just like, even with the bigger tablets that Apple, that are coming out, like this, all of a sudden you have like this 12-inch sort of tablet from Apple, which is like almost the same as the Mac Air. I was just interested.
I think the tablets are going to grow to the PC market.
Yeah.
In terms of users.
In terms of mobile commerce, we're seeing a lot of apps that are purely smartphone format to be very successful. All right, that's all. Thank you so
Round of
much.
applause for Akila.